the session has not resumed yet, question mark. Can you hear me, Greg? Anybody? Can you hear me, Greg? I can see Greg, but I can't hear him. Still can't hear anything. As long as they all turn them on later, LOL.
Okay, welcome everyone to the meeting of the Lancaster School Board. We are back from closed session and we will reconvene at 6:09. And there was no action taken during closed session. So we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Diane Grooms.
Repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And next we have our informational items. The first one is our LEF update.
Good evening, Board, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Ken Scott, who actually needs no introduction, but welcome, Mr. Scott. And it looks like he has backup there, if she's Mrs. Danita Wynn. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Scott, we need the mic. I need to, Billy, if you can make sure you point the mic up so that we can get as much of his voice as possible. Thank you.
I can't hear him at all.
That's what we're having. Enjoy our relationship over these very many years. Old and tired, and we need to let that go.
Oh. I was going to say, wait a minute. Billy, I'm just going to ask if you can just unmute the computer, because the people online are having difficulty hearing there. Let's see. Okay, he can. I know I unmuted my computer so that hopefully they could pick up some of my audio, but I know that we have one board member that is viewing online, so I just want to make sure that we get as much of what you're saying, especially the old and tired part. Or speaking for yourself, yes.
I can hear him now. Right before you guys came over, I could hear it.
He says he can hear it.
Okay, I think that they are getting the audio now. I'm getting a message that you're starting to come through. Say something into the mic, please, Billy. Mr. Giles, thumbs up. Can you hear that? A little bit, not really.
Right before he came over, I could hear. I don't know what you guys did. I don't know if it just unmuted right before he came over.
I unmuted my computer.
Oh. Well, yeah, I could hear you before.
Thank you for your patience, everyone. We just want to make sure that everything can be heard to the greatest degree possible.
Check. Mic test.
Yes, I got a thumbs up.
You can hear that?
I got a thumbs up from Mr. Giles on that, and from Bart and from Mr. Hoffman. Thank you.
This by way of a brief recap. And Ken Scott, Lancaster School Foundation. At this point in time, 5 remaining members of Lancaster School involved ourselves. Allocated to the Chung Memorial and for the Lynn Cheddick Memorial, allocated to speak by the district office. Remainder of the funds of our accountable functions allocated to each site program individually for library enrichment. It's been a great pleasure for years cooperation with the Lancaster School District. Proud of what we have done for you. This is some of the activities and money and done things with. It's great reluctance, but the new fresh blood and we need that is possible, and that would be great. We will make sure that the funds are in the proper hands of the district. Immediately monitor the mayor. Some memorial, $200 to a student. Tag will be to a teacher contest. Some memorial is an award of $200. $100 to each. Gift cards to the others. Great pleasure. We enjoyed the process and camaraderie, and we've enjoyed the process. And then making so many other demands that have been Common Core and other things that we ability to do some of the programs that we hopefully able to say that process that people leave, ideas and programs seem to go away. So hoping that this
We just like to thank you and Danita for all your years of service. And I have many fond memories of the chocolate festival and the school breakfast fundraisers, and had some really great programs. And I know the money will continue to be put to good use with those funds. And so the district will make sure we continue to provide those services there. But again, thank you for all those years of service. Any other comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I know Mr. Lewis and Mr. Ariana from Paiute, Mr. Lewis from Amargosa, really appreciated the equipment they received, the musical equipment for their bands, and being able to go and listen to them, which I was able to do this year. It reminds me of what the LEF has done for our district. And I'm very proud of you, Ken, for putting up with it for 30 years. It's a long time. And my wife, knowing that she's only been in it 30 years too, so she started at 2, I think. But you guys have done a fantastic job. And the bands on stage, the kids on stage, those were just fantastic events. And it's sad to see them go. It really is. But thank you very much.
I would just like to also commend all the board of trustees continuing to work hard and other experts for all these years of sessions, and that commitment has all family students of the district.
Thank you very much. And any other comments?
We have no other comments, informational items this evening.
Keith, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, he's going to be sorely missed. I did really
Can you
like.
unmute, Mr.?
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yes. I just appreciate his long-standing service and all the stuff he's done for our district. We're going to miss him, but thanks again.
Thank you.
And also, next we're going to go into no other items for informational items.
None this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we have our presentations, and to start, we have Ms. Diane Grooms and myself. We'd like to present to Miss Michelle, Dr. Bowers.
And that's not on schedule. Oh my goodness.
Because that's heavy.
We just want to present as a board some thank you and well wishes, and you've been such an inspiration to all of us and to the district and children and families, and there's not any of the words we can say, and just you've always been there for us and looking out for us, and you just made this district blossom. And so we want to give you some flowers so you can remember that. In your retirement. Thank you so much.
And before you sit down, it's story time. We always like stories, right? So this is a story about a little boy and a little girl who were trying to say thank you to a teacher. So the little boy said, well, I'm going to go and find something for her. So he held up an orange. And the little girl said, it's kind of plain, kind of brown. I like the color, but it's really not what I had in mind. So he said, okay. He went away, came back, and he says, how about this? This has shape. It's a lemon. It's bright, colorful, and cheerful. And this would be just perfect to say thank you to our teacher. And the little girl said, it's kind of sour. I don't think it's really what we really want to say. So then he came back with an avocado. And I still don't know if it's an avocado as a vegetable or fruit, but I'm going with fruit. Okay. And the little girl said, you know, sometimes avocado is hard and sometimes it's soft and you never know when it's exactly just right. So no, that's not good either. So the little boy said, okay, well, let's try. How about a banana? It's yellow too, and it's really nice. And she says, oh no, bananas are reserved for Dr. Glatfelter because he is the banana principal in our school district. So then he finally went and said, okay, how about this? An apple. And the little girl looked at it and she said, you know, kind of looks like a heart. If you look at the apple, it has the round shoulders and the smaller base. And I think that's why the apple has become the symbol for how we thank our teachers. And then there is, of course, the golden apple for the very highest awards that we give. And I think you're due for a golden apple of your own. So we have something to give you. One of the things that we noticed that Dr. Bauer started doing after she announced her retirement, she started wearing bright colored, the favorite colors. So we took that as our inspiration. The golden apple represented right here. I wanted to read the label. On the label it says, thank you, Dr. Michelle Bowers, being a role model and a teacher in Lancaster School District, California. 21st. Thank you. Read the words.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for that wonderful surprise. Mr. Wynn, thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you for all these years of service, and it's been wonderful. Yeah.
It has been wonderful. So thank you very much. It's a blessing.
All right. With that, we're going to go on to our other presentations. Our first one is the Mello-Roos CFD bond issuance update.
Tonight we have from CFW, Emilio Flores. Thank you. All right. That better?
Yes.
All right. First time I was here, it was like Yankee Stadium echoing. Good night. I don't have any results or flowers, but I do have some nice news to report. The can we bring a presentation or does it magically appear? Okay. I'm here to see the board and the public update on Union State District Board have one special tax bond. 2004, the district the district the costs associated with housing used to. This is like a new fee rate. And since 2004, the district like pretty much no tax from those properties. The formation documents did allow all against the revenues. That's what we counted previously, and we were collecting on an annual basis of others. And those of the supporting GOP was out there first. But in March, directed CFW to proceed with issuing bonds current future revenue. Overall, we have a couple of major milestones in the issuance. First off, went very well. Direct us to go forward with it. And in April, which I think is a very important milestone, is that the district actually met with the Standard Board rating agency. And just like every individual or corporation has a credit rating, the district has a credit rating as well. And what's so important about the credit rating is it determines what's the interest rates that you would demand from investors for your credit worthiness. So the more secure you are, the lower your interest rate, the more risky you are, the higher you go. And it's done on a very similar grading as our schools where there's A's and B's and so forth. There's more works in there as well. But overall, what's considered investment grade is anything that above a triple B plus is considered investment grade. So if you ever heard the term junk bonds, that's anything rated below the triple B plus. And why this is so important is that the district has had a very strong fiscal position as it relates to smellers as well as its operations. And superintendent and we're able to go and work at the work with the agencies to understand what is it that drives stability here in your district. And as a result of that, we got A- rating. Most Mello-Roos bonds that are out there are just on the cusp of investment grade, if not junk bond status. And so we were actually able to secure a very high investment grade, which is A-. And just so that you know, the district is rated at A+. And so for general obligation bonds, which are more secure because those are levied against the entirety of the district, whereas the Mello-Roos is just the properties within the boundaries of there. And this allowed us to negotiate a much lower interest rate for the bonds when we sold them. So that's very important, and we'll come back to that point in a minute. Based on that rating, we were able to go out and post our prospectus to investors in May of 2022, followed by selling the bonds on May 25th. And on June 8th, we were able to close the transaction and deposit the construction funds into the district's account. Why that May 25th is so important. And interest rates remain relatively low if you look at historical trends. For those of you who bought houses in the latter part of the last century, interest rates are still relatively low. So you may remember double-digit interest rates. So historically, we're still in a very good environment. However, during the pandemic, we saw a drastic decrease in interest rates as the federal government tried to stimulate growth through the pandemic. But as we've all encountered very recently, we've seen inflation, we've seen a sharp rise in interest rates. And since January of this year, we've seen about a 1.75% increase in interest rates as it relates to mortgages and types of loans. And the bond market was not unaffected by this either. So when we issued the bonds or locked in our rates on May 25th, you'll see that green dot that's on there. We were just coming out a little bit of a dip. And if we had waited 2 more weeks, we would have been right back on the rise. And today, those interest rates are above what we would have encountered when we sold the bond. So the combination of the timing of the sale, as well as the investment grade rating, enabled us to have a very favorable result of the sale. Bonds were well received by investors. There was actually more demand for our bonds than there were bonds to be sold. This allowed us to further reduce the interest costs of the district, and it resulted in an overall average interest rate of about 4.31% for the length of the loan. This resulted in a payback ratio, that is the total amount of principal interest repaid on the loan, of less than 2 to 1. So for every dollar that's being borrowed for these bonds, $1.82 are being paid back in principal and interest. So for every dollar that's been borrowed, less than $2 is going back out, which is extremely favorable. And in fact, it's less than half of the maximum that is allowed under the California state law. California state law allows districts to borrow money up to a repayment ratio of 4 to 1. So they actually allow you to borrow money for every dollar you borrow up to $4 of paying back in interest and in principal. And we were able to accomplish that, half of that, more than half of that, less than half of that at 1.8 to 1. All the board's goal was for us to get about $9 million in built proceeds. We were able to accomplish that at 9.06. I will tell you that there were a couple of days there where we weren't sure if we were going to hit that milestone. But once again, that combination of that investment grade rating, as well as the timing in the marketplace, allowed us to reach that goal and achieve that. The funds are now available for the district's identified school projects, and then we can go forward. One thing we want to note, and I think it was very important when we embarked upon this, is that these bonds are subordinate to the COP. And what that means is that the Belarus is currently supporting both certificates of participation as well as these Belarus bonds. And in the event that there is not enough revenue to cover both, the COP is what will be remedying first, and then the Belarus secondly. That's a very unique structure. And it's something that was with the request of the district in order to preserve the general fund, because in the case of a COP, if there's not enough revenue from the Belarus, then the general fund would be the next line item that the investors would go after in order to make themselves whole. So by creating the structure, we make sure that all of the money is generated in the COP first, then the Belarus second. We are also able to negotiate based on the investment grade rating bond insurance for the Belarus as well, which also aided in our ability to sell those bonds. To give you an idea of what that impact was, having insurance and that single A minus rating, it saved the district interest costs about near from 0.2% to 0.5% in overall savings. And so if you think about a mortgage for $1 million home, if you're able to save a quarter or half a point, what that means, imagine what that is for $9 million. So overall, very successful sale. I do want to give a lot of praise to the district and its foresight for engaging in this. I know there's one of the last things that Mike Barr wanted to achieve before she left. But I think overall, just given the timing and everything and how everything has since then. It's very fortuitous that we're able to pull this off and engage in this. So with that, I can answer any questions you may have. But like I said, no flowers, no quilt, but some big news about the overall ball. So
That's great news.
Questions, comments?
No, I was going to say, Mr. Forrest, thank you very much for coming to us when you did and explaining to us how important it was to vote that approval. Because with that, we've done quite well. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much too for the timing. We have to be prepared for the students who will be coming from those neighborhoods and increasing our enrollment. So we have to be prepared in advance of them coming. So I'm glad you had that foresight.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Freeze, did you want to add anything? All right. Great work. Yeah, thank you for your timeliness and getting that done. And that was fantastic.
Thank you for your patience. It wasn't a normal geo bond that we've go up here and done many, many times. It's the first time we've done this on the voters, and I appreciate the board's patience and its diligence. When we did come to you had great questions for us to come back and answer and address. And once again, it was that conversation that we were able to have this level and then with district staff that made it successful throughout this. So thank you again for your time and your patience. And ultimately, we are very pleased that you guys have the resources to pursue your projects.
Thank you so much. And thank you for coming up to our board meetings too. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And if we could close the presentation out. Thank you.
Okay, and do we have any further presentations this evening?
None this evening.
Thank you. Next, we'll be going to individual action items, educational services. Our first one is adoption of Lancaster School District's Local Control Accountability Plan, or LCAP. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second by Groom, second by Mr. Wynn. Any discussion?
I think at our last meeting, we delved very deeply into this plan, and it feels like it's a living, breathing document. We're seeing it often enough. It's not something that is created and put on a shelf. It is what is happening in our district, and I think it truly reflects what we desire on behalf of our students.
Mr. Wynn, any comments?
No, I think, like Diane said, Jordan did a very good presentation at our last board meeting. And the summaries that we have for this meeting are very clear, very understandable, and we're ready to move forward.
And Mr. Giles, thumbs up, 2 thumbs up. Sounds great. We did have an extensive and comprehensive overview at the last board meeting, answered all our questions, I believe, and we definitely look forward to continuing to implement this plan in our district. So great work to everyone who was involved in that, and Dr. Goins. And with that, we will call for the vote.
Thank you very much. On item 11A, adoption of Lancaster School District's Local Control Accountability Plan. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Mrs. Grooms, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wynn, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes on a vote of 4-0.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have individual action items business, adoption of annual budget report, July 1st, 2022, single budget adoption. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Giles and second by Mr. Wynn. And any discussion? Okay, with that, we'll call for the vote. Again, we had a great presentation at the last board meeting.
Thank you very much. On item 12A, adoption of annual budget report, July 1, 2022, single budget adoption. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Mrs. Grooms, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes on a vote of 4-0.
Okay, next we have approval of award of bid for the Group 3 HVAC wall mount replacement project to LTJ Heating and Air. Do we have a motion? Moved by Mr. Nguyen, second by Mrs. Grooms. And do we have any discussion?
This is the third round of HVAC replacement units. It represents 85 units that will be replaced. And an advantage of awarding this contract is it will help us lock in the prices associated with this purchase, even though the anticipated delivery of the units is months and months out as we anticipated. We can lock in the price right now by awarding this bid.
Will this complete all of the schools?
No, this is a big clip down the road at phase 3. What we anticipated was that the fastest way to get these done was to do the simplest ones first, which represent the heat pump units. So this, I believe, might be the last. The last one. So the next group that comes up is the larger units that would have some of them in some cases have to be craned up onto roofs. We say that for last to kind of let these other units get out and take advantage of the dollars and replace them. So we do anticipate a phase 4 coming forward in the future. We can't give you the date yet. And then at phase 4 will get us a bunch closer to being completed until the funding will come.
I know it was a very, there was strong emotion from the teachers on the air conditioning being available in the classrooms.
Absolutely. We have some units out there that are pushing 40 years old, and the advantage we get is, first of all, that the federal government for ESSER $3 pays for this, and it's one of the authorized expenditures. Second, it was so challenging to get parts for some of these older units that we were scavenging units that we had replaced before just for parts, and even then that wasn't meeting the need. But most importantly, especially when at the end of COVID, all the teachers came back and we had these units turned on, they were failing left and right. It was all these old ones. The fact that we no longer will have to service them as repair, we get to service them as maintenance, will really take our HVAC guys and allow them to be stretched much further and not have to be giving so much attention to so many different units when we need it. So yeah, it's definitely an investment in the future. The district that we see will pay back dividends because these units are far more efficient than those 40-year-old units. So not only free, it'll save us money on energy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? All right, great work. We're looking forward to that nice cold air. All right, and with that, we'll call for the vote.
Thank you. On item 12B, approval of award of bid for the Group 3 HVAC wall mount replacement project to LTJ Heating and Air. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Mrs. Grooms, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes on a vote of 4-0.
Thank you very much. Next, we have our approval of change order number 24 with Web Builders Construction for Joshua Phase 3 Modernization. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Nguyen, second by Mrs. Grooms. Any discussion?
Mr. Chief, if I can make just some general comments about the next four of these change orders. Last week on our facilities presentation, we took a tour of Joshua, and Dean Ford pointed out, to the best of what we could, where those change orders occurred, or some of them were areas that had already been covered up. It's always been the goal of the Maintenance and Operations Division that if we can get a change order to the board before that work is done, we will. We want the board to be able to approve that work in advance. So these 4 change orders are coming near the end of the project, and there's a reason why. And that is that all of this work was critical pathway work, but in some cases, the pricing that the contractor was proposing was way out of line. The work still needed to be done, but we didn't agree with the pricing. And so through the negotiation process between our design team, that's Dean, Rob, our architect, and our inspector, we challenged some of the pricing that these contractors were putting forth, and always with the idea to get the best value and to make sure that we were getting exactly what we were paying for. Great example was the concrete and the supporting pillar, where the contractor first insisted that was 14 cubic yards of concrete for two cement.
And it was 2 cubic yards. And had we just rolled over on this, we would have paid for 12 cubic yards of concrete that was never even delivered. The sharp eye of our design team that catches these things. But that's why they come at the end, because we continue to push back on the charges that they were insisting that they want to do. And in total savings over these 4 change orders, it saved the district close to $21,000. Fees that we would have just paid that we insisted we don't go to them. And so it's good work that our design team is doing and challenging what some of the invoicing is coming through to the contractors. And in total sum for this particular project, total and change orders came to 2.3%, which for a modernization project of a facility that is 70 years old is really quite good. Change orders, any sort of modernization can easily push upwards of 10 and 12%. But at 2.3%, it reflects the value of the architect's experience in working with this facility, and also the contractors in bidding out work to know what to anticipate to keep these. And then the process of negotiating down the prices, that's what keeps this change order amount down. If there are specific questions for number 24, we'll be happy to answer them, and we'll answer any of the specific questions you might have as we get to each order. But I wanted to kind of frame why these change orders are coming at this particular.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any questions, comments?
Just a comment. The contractor actually tried to charge us for 14 yards of concrete.
Yes.
Who was the wise man who found that not to be true?
Well, Dean is part of this design. It's some really sharp people who know a lot about construction. That 14 cubic yards and knowing something about construction, that's 2 cement trucks.
Yeah.
That was essentially the whole thing. It was 3 by 6 foot. Well, the math says 2 cubic yards. So how do you get 14? But we challenged them, and they backed up, and they agreed that it was 2 cubic yards. So.
And will this concrete company do business with us again?
No.
Good.
All right, it's great to see the change orders in this direction. So that's definitely good to see.
I wanted to add, the facilities tour that we took last week was very helpful to really see what was there and frankly to see how old the facility is. And it helps us visualize exactly what was going on. I think it was very well timed.
And I just want to thank Dean Four and the team for being on site and supervising and overlooking all the construction. And Joshua has come a long way. That's really an amazing school over there. Hopefully we have some before and after pictures when it's all done. With that, Keith, did you have any items? Excellent. We'll call for the vote.
Thank you very much. On item 12C, approval of change order number 24 with Web Builders Construction for Joshua Phase 3. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Grooms, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes on a vote of 4-0.
Thank you very much. Next is another change order. This one is approval of change order number 25 with Web Builders Construction for Joshua Phase 3 Modernization. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Diane Grooms, second by Keith Giles. And any discussion? That will call for the vote.
Thank you. On item 12D, approval of change order number 25 with Web Builders Construction for Joshua Phase 3 Modernization. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Grooms, how do you vote? Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes on a vote of 4-0.
Okay, and another change order, approval of change order number 26 with Web Builders Construction for Joshua Phase 3 Modernization. Do we have a motion?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Nguyen. Second by Mrs. Grooms. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Thank you. On item 12E, approval of change order number 26 with Web Builders Construction for Joshua Phase 3 Modernization. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Grooms, how do you vote? Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes on a vote of 4-0.
Thank you. And our final approval of change order number 27 with Web Builders Construction for Joshua Phase 3. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Giles.
Second.
Second by Mr. Nguyen. Any discussion? Okay, call for the vote.
Thank you. On item 12F, approval of change order number 27 with Web Builders Construction for Joshua Phase 3 Modernization. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Grooms, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes on a vote of 4-0.
Thank you.
Can I add that the tour we got last week for the Joshua School, that was an excellent tour. I appreciate you and Ron and Jason, I believe it is, doing a very good job of showing us all of these changes that were necessary. It made it a lot clearer for me, and I'm sure for Diane, Greg, and Keith also. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we have our individual action items, human resources. Item 13A, approval of principal.
And in the absence of Mr. Conti this evening, I get to provide the names. Joseph Nosick.
And do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Nguyen. Second by Diane Grooms. Any discussion?
Absolutely. We are very pleased and honored to reintroduce you to one of our current assistant principals, Joseph Nosick. He has served as an assistant principal for the past 3 years at New Vista Middle School. Prior to that, Mr. Nosick taught for 16 years in grade 5, 7, and 8 at Hughes Elizabeth Lake and Amarillo Creek Middle School. Prior to becoming an administrator, Joe served as ELL program coordinator, choir director, robotics coach, and administrative intern. Joe is teacher Clarity Playbook certified, was responsible for the school safety plan, and is well versed in the use of technology and PLCs, and is known for both his passion and his integrity. And we are pleased to bring him to the board for your consideration this evening.
And with that, we'll call for the vote.
Thank you very much. On item 13A, approval of Principal Joseph Nosick. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Grooms, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote? Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Item 13A passes with a vote of 4-0. And I would like to reintroduce you to Joseph Nosick. Congratulations. Do you have people with you this evening that you want to introduce, or would you like to share any words? Great. Thank you very much, and congratulations, Joe.
We have an assignment yet.
He will be going to West Wind Elementary.
Welcome. Yeah, we're so pleased to have you on board. Okay, next we have approval of Director 2 of Child Nutrition Services.
Deborah Candelaria.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Nguyen, second by Mrs. Grooms. Any discussion?
Absolutely. This is also an opportunity to reintroduce you to Debbie. Deborah throws me. Debbie has served the Lancaster School District in the Child Nutrition Services Department since June 2004, when she began her career with us as a CNS worker. From 2006 to 2015, Debbie has served as a Child Nutrition 3 and Child Nutrition Manager. In June 2015, Debbie assumed the position of Supervisor of Child Nutrition. She has her Bachelor's of Science in Business and Master's in Business Administration, both from the University of Phoenix. During her tenure with the Lancaster School District, Debbie has proven herself to be a creative, resourceful, and dependable servant leader who is well respected by all. Debbie Candelaria has all the requisite skills and experiences to assume the position of Director of Child Nutrition Services. And again, I am deeply honored and pleased to have the opportunity to bring her forward for your consideration this evening.
That, we'll call for the vote.
Thank you. On item 13B, approval of Director 2 of Child Nutrition Services, Deborah Candelaria. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Grooms, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye, and thank you.
Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes on a vote of 4-0. Congratulations, Debbie Candelaria. And I know you're bashful, but you have to stand up and introduce who you have with you this evening.
My daughter, like, we're celebrating her too. Credential.
Yeah.
Thank you, and congratulations to both of you. So welcome aboard, and Debbie, thank you. Looking forward to your continued good works. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We're honored. Thank you very much. And next we have our approval of provisional internship permit for Beverly Megan, Sarta Grogan, and Corey Jackson. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Moved by Diane Grooms. Second by Keith Giles. Any discussion? Okay, with that, we're going to call for the vote.
Thank you. Item 13C, approval of provisional internship permit. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Grooms, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes on a vote of 4-0.
Okay, next we have item D, approval of declaration of need for fully qualified educators. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Keith Giles,
Second.
second by Dwayne Wynn. Any discussion? Okay. Call for the vote.
On item 13D, approval of declaration of need for fully qualified educators. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Grooms, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. TP, how do you vote?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes on a vote of 4-0.
Okay, next we have adoption of resolution number 2021-2237. Resolution for 180-day wait period exception. GC sections 7522.56. Extra help resolution. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Grooms,
Second.
second by Mr. Nguyen. Any discussion? Okay, call for the vote.
Thank you. On item 13E, adoption of resolution number 2021-2237, resolution for 180-day wait period exception, GC section 7522.56 and 21229, extra help resolution. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Grooms, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. TP, how do you vote?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes on a vote of 4-0.
Okay, individual action items, Superintendent. Item A, adoption of resolution 2021-2236. Second addendum to certification of authorized signatures, approved December 14th, 2021. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Keith Giles, second by Dwayne Wynn. Any discussion? Okay, call for the vote.
Thank you. On item 14A, adoption of resolution 2021-2236, second addendum to certification of authorized signatures approved December 14, 2021. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Grooms, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. TP, how do you vote?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Item passes on a vote of 4-0.
Thank you. Next item is adoption of resolution 2021-2238. Board compensation.
And actually, we need to have someone else do that for you. Mr. Giles will come unmuted and he will do that for us.
Okay, I guess we'll have,
Going to recuse himself.
can you hear me? Okay.
We can hear.
Okay. We want to we have an adoption of resolution 2021-2022-38 board compensation on missed meetings for Greg Teepee, June 14th, 2022. I need a motion.
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Grooms, seconded by Mr. Nguyen. And then I guess we'll call for the vote.
Thank you. Item 14B, adoption of resolution 2021-2238, board compensation on this meeting for Greg Keeping, June 14th, 2022. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gross, how do you vote?
Vote.
Aye.
Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes on a vote of 3-0 with one recusal. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, bring him back. He can do the addressing the board.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Okay. And with that, we are going on to addressing the board. But before we do that, we're going to take a short break. So if anyone needs to use the restroom or you do need to head out, you can. So we'll resume in about 5 minutes. We're going to call the meeting back to session at 7:16. And our next item we have is addressing the board. Board members will be utilizing electronic devices during the meeting to access the online agenda, and an electronic device may be used to record the meeting. Individuals who wish to address the board may complete a speaker card and present it and any supporting documents to the deputy superintendent. Individuals participating remotely who wish to speak must have a completed and approved online registration for public comments no later than 5:00 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Personal information such as a student, parent, guardian's name, address, phone number, date of birth, email, or other directory information as defined in Ed Code 49061 may be excluded from the minutes of the meeting by submitting a written request to the superintendent. The board president shall recognize individuals who wish to speak. Individuals wishing to present testimony to the board concerning specific items on the agenda may do so once the item has been moved, seconded, and is on the floor for discussion. Time limits of 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes per item shall be allowed, according to Board Bylaws 9322. Board members may ask questions for clarification purposes. However, no action may be taken and no discussion may take place on an item not on the posted agenda per the Brown Act. So with that, we're going to start with comments from PTA,
None this evening.
comments from CSEA,
No request.
and comments from TAL.
We have Gina Whipple, TAL President. Thank you.
Of the classrooms. So hope you guys are having a great summer. I'm looking forward to bargaining. Hope everybody is getting their rest. And I'm hoping that it's a seamless, painless process and we can get started on that September 1st. Let's see what else I got. Oh, thank you also for addressing the HVAC situation. I know those calls come in a lot and I know the teachers will really appreciate having the air conditioning when we come back. So thank you for that. And Michelle,
Yes.
congratulations to you. It's been a long 12 years, I think.
10.
Yeah.
10 is so. Mhm.
I'm really happy for you, and I hope that you enjoy retirement, and I'm sure we'll see. And also,
Thank you.
welcome to Dr. Marietti. Looking forward to working with you and providing a great educational experience for our students and for our staff and for everybody. So thank you, and I hope everybody has a fabulous summer. I think the next board meeting is 4 weeks.
Correct, July 19th.
Okay, welcome. So have a nice evening, everyone, and see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina, and have a relaxing summer as well. Thank you. And our next speaker. Any public comments?
We do have requests for comments from the audience. Our first request is Mark Napolitano.
Good evening. I don't know, that LGBT, that thing disturbed me. I think you guys are primarily elementary schools. We need to keep that stuff out of school. Schools for Education has nothing to do with that stuff. I would like to start off by thanking any and all of you that had a direct involvement with allowing students of Westwind the graduation ceremony and any other schools that flipped as well. It's much easier for us adults to navigate through all the nonsense over the past couple years in which our children have been suffering the most. I will remind you again, the only reason we are here is for the children. In fact, without them, none of us would be here, and none of you would be employed in this field. Now, I don't know why any of you chose this career, possibly job security, benefits, or financial reasons. I truly hope you all chose it for the best interest of the children. We all have different backgrounds. Some of us may be wiser in science and others in math. Some of us may have high school diplomas, college degrees, maybe even doctorates or PhDs. However, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand this definition obtained from Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, 5th edition, copyright 1941. Vaccine, in general, any substance for preventative inoculation, especially a suspension of sensitized, attenuated, or killed bacteria called preferably bacterial vaccine, injected into the body to induce immunity to the same species of bacteria or their toxins. I'm glad to see a resolution for administration and teachers. However, what about our kids? SB 1479 will administer C19 testing per state Department of Health programs for teachers, staff, pupils, and surrounding communities that help local educational agencies for in-person learning. Now, rocket scientist again, how many fully boosted public figures have we seen recently state they've tested positive? Yes, fully boosted with C19. Therefore, the ineffective vaccine is leading to discriminatory testing. For the fully boosted can still receive and transmit C19. Although your resolution is a great idea, SB 1479 will still enforce discriminatory testing on all of you, including our children. So we all need to come together for the sake of our children and combat this disgusting bill. SB 1479 is scheduled to be heard in the Assembly Health Committee on Tuesday, June 21st. Tell the committee to vote no or abstain. Remember, also, Sheriff Villanueva halted the use of Fulgent testing last November over alleged ties to China. Fulgent would most likely be involved with your test. I highly encourage all of you to stand up and fight with our children, and we will battle with you, for many of us already are. May God bless you all.
Can I ask the date of that? What is the date of that assembly hearing?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Grims, your mic is off.
June 21st.
Thank you.
Today. Thank you. Our next speaker is Rich Gallego.
Good evening. I don't want what I'm about to say to be taken wrong. I mean no disrespect. There are a lot of citizens in California that don't understand our state constitution and Article 1, Section 3, which reads that we as citizens have the right to instruct, not ask, not suggest, but instruct our elected representatives. That's what PFC is here to do tonight. Rule number 1. In any high-stress situation, never panic. When you do, it leads to bad, sometimes dangerous decisions. Your board reacted to COVID by panicking. You took the advice of the county health department, which is headed by a woman who's essentially a sociologist with no background in biological science. She was wrong about the science, and worse, she and you, taking the course that she suggested, which included a gross violation of the bodily autonomy of your teachers, not to mention the violation of their right to medical privacy. Last week, the New England Journal of Medicine, one of the most respected medical journals in the world, published a study that included 100,000 patients, the conclusion to which was that those who are vaccinated against COVID are actually more likely, get that, more likely to contract COVID than those with naturally acquired immunity. Also, that the natural infection confers more robust, longer-lasting immunity than any of these so-called vaccines. In short, you've been requiring testing of the wrong cohort. The teachers who got vaccinated, you didn't ask anything of them by way of proof. They were the ones more likely to contract COVID again. Do you see the problem here? In my life, I found that one of the best ways to establish and retain credibility is to have the capacity to acknowledge when you're wrong. Now, I don't believe that any of you get up every morning trying to figure out diabolical ways to harm your students, your teachers. I don't believe that for a moment. But you have to understand, with all the evidence that's out there now, there's no way to defend the position that you've taken. The only thing worse than adopting such bad policy in the face of overwhelming evidence that you've been wrong is to stick to it. You have to have the capacity to acknowledge the science, the actual science, not this leftist nonsense that I hear from politicians who don't know science. They wouldn't know it if it grew teeth and bit them in the backside. Our governor doesn't know anything about science. Barbara Ferrer, she doesn't know anything about science. I don't expect you to remember, but I spoke to you here May 3rd, and in an attempt to establish my own credibility, I told you I ran an immunology lab at Children's Hospital Los Angeles for 30 years. I do know about science, but you don't have to take my word. June 15th edition of the New England Journal of Medicine. Look it up. The study includes, actually, the article includes studies from Qatar and Israel, over 100,000 patients. And what Mark was just alluding to, all these high-profile individuals, politicians, actors, celebrities of one sort or another, they're fully vaccinated, except they keep getting sick. They keep getting COVID. Folks, I'm just asking you to have a little humility and acknowledge that the policy you've been pursuing is wrong. Scientifically, it doesn't hold water. And you have been violating the rights of your teachers by requiring them to make their medical status known. I'm imploring you to I'm instructing you to do the right thing. Put an end to this nonsense. It's indefensible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jaylene Davidson.
I'm glad to see that the board is finally addressing getting rid of the testing for unvaxxed teachers, which is, by the way, long overdue. Like everybody else has stated here tonight, you discriminated against them as well because you weren't having your teachers who were vaccinated being tested. And by the way, they still could get COVID. They're getting it more often and they still could spread it. Anyway, I watched the meeting on June 7th when Mrs. Whipple spoke then, just like she spoke tonight, and I actually wish she would have stayed. When she stated then that you are here for the LGBTQ students, to uplift, to encourage, and support them. That's part of the problem. That statement should have been, we're here to support, encourage, and help all our students. You need to stop putting them in groups. You did that. You did it again tonight. They are no more special than any other child. Children are not born racist. They have to learn that. And every time you guys cause this division, you are adding fuel to the fire. By the way, where were any of you when the kids who didn't want to wear a mask or couldn't wear a mask or didn't want to be unvaxxed? Where were you then to support them when they were depressed, when they were suicidal? Where were you to encourage and uplift any of that group? I didn't hear one of you, not one, ever stand up at this mic or anywhere else and say, we stand by those kids. But you call out all your other groups, and then you wonder why you have a problem. You are part of the problem. And that needs to stop, because our kids deserve better. Without them, you don't have these jobs. And if I actually had my way, all the parents would take their kids out of these schools because you have shown yourself to be irresponsible. Why are you still speaking about groups and you don't see that that's divisive? Why don't you see a problem with that? You're educators. I don't understand. It completely blows my mind. Why are you not concentrating on basic education? Our stats, we are under. We're not above. As an average, we are below average. But you are more worried about trying to teach these children about gay rights, about other cultures, other religions, which, by the way, is not your job and it's not your place, and you're overstepping. Maybe that's why they don't read and they don't write and they don't know geography and history and science. You know, actually, if they had learned science, they would understand that this COVID thing is a joke. They would understand that people who are being vaccinated are getting COVID more. And that's not even to mention the side effects. You are trying to let children understand drag queens. When drag queens are telling you it is inappropriate, you need to get back to the basics. You need to do better by our children. You need to give them a real education and leave the parenting to the parents, because you are not them. You are not their mother. You are not their fathers. And you need to stop doing that.
Just so you know, you have 1 minute.
We do not need you to try and raise children to be woke. You do not need to deceive them. You do not need to manipulate them. That is not your job. Matthew 18:6, and I'm going to finish this. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believes in me to stumble, better you have a heavy millstone be hung around your neck and that you be drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world because of its stumbling blocks. For it is inevitable, the stumbling blocks come, but woe to the person through whom the stumbling blocks actually come. Will you please stop being their stumbling block and watch out for all of them, support all of them, and treat them all with respect and dignity. Stop being the problem and be the solution. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carla Galvin.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Carla Galvin. As you already know, I am an involved parent. I want to address the discriminatory weekly testing of the unvaccinated employees. What gives you the power to violate their rights? What makes you think that they have less rights than the vaccinated? Are you aware of the vaccinated being able to spread COVID even more than the unvaccinated? You're not testing the vaccinated, which means they can be COVID positive, but you will not know. You do not care about this spread as long as it's from a vaccinated person. Tell me how this is not discrimination. Make it make sense. You have a non-discrimination statement on the district's homepage that reads, "The Lancaster School District is committed to ensuring equal, fair, and meaningful access to employment and education services. The Lancaster School District does not discriminate." Michael Davis, he's not here, but I'm sure he's listening. What are you doing to stop this discrimination? You can't keep saying you have no power like you told me about my children getting discriminated at school for exercising their given rights. You did not stand up for my children. If anything, you're the one harassing these teachers with these unlawful discriminatory testing. I am in support of these teachers. They are very valuable to our kids' education. How dare you act against them? All you guys have caused is division. It needs to end now. Another thing that I want to bring up is textbook indoctrination. The LAUSD received an enormous donation of LGBTQ themed books. I pray that the districts here in the AV do not jump on board and accept such donations. These books are not appropriate and are not welcome in our kids' school. Again, they are not welcome in our kids' school. How about you teach what's important, like English, arithmetic, history of this country, the country you should be loving? Things that will benefit in the success of our children. Our kids don't need to be learning about sex, about anyone's sexuality. Sex can be brought up, but not God. How is that acceptable? Do you not see the evil? When I was in school, I didn't know if my teacher was gay, straight, transgender, or identified as a freaking cat. But now you guys are allowing confusion amongst these children. How dare anyone try to take these kids' innocence and try to sexualize them and try to fill their heads with such evil? You all need to stop being silent about your beliefs because you're worried someone will be offended. Do the right thing, because at the end of your journey here on this earth, you will face your maker. I want to remind you parents once again about the following bills that will take your parental rights. SB 866, SB 871, SB 1184, SB 1479, SB 1419. Get informed. Again, I don't care what your politics are. If you put your children first above all, then you and I are on the same side. Freedom of choice still exists. So parents, I know it gets hard, but you can't let someone else keep fighting for your kids' rights. You need to stand up and do it yourself as well. When there is no freedom left to fight for, all that will be left is regrets. Act now. Trust me, your kids will appreciate it. We, the parents, have the power. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mario presents.
Good evening, board. My name is Mario Presents. I want to speak on kind of what everyone else has been speaking on the discontinuation of testing of the employees, and also discontinuing the testing overall. As I'm going to echo what they said, obviously we know that people who have been vaccinated are still spreading it. I want to actually show you an article that I just came across. Rock musician's fiance is actually going to be awarded £120,000 in a case against AstraZeneca because of a COVID vaccine injury. So these cases are actually happening. The health department is actually losing cases against businesses who did not comply with the mandates. So we're seeing litigation coming down and actually favoring the victims, people who were bullied by people like you, teachers who have to go get tested because they're unvaccinated are being discriminated against. You're saying, oh, well, they're not really being discriminated against because they're just going to a different room. Nobody's going to know. But when a COVID outbreak happens and you send home all of the unvaccinated teachers, it's immediately known to everybody who is vaccinated and who is not vaccinated. That's discrimination. And as an LGBT person myself, I don't think that you should be teaching sexuality in general at all to children. Children need to be learning math, science, arithmetic. They need to be learning how to actually properly structure a sentence and actually get up here and speak to you guys and without fear. We had this little young man speak to you guys, telling you about the plastic and how he had to look through 4 pieces of plastic to get to the board, and immediately you guys took those plastic down. So you guys are obviously listening. Hopefully you'll listen to this gay man tell you that drag queens are not someone that your children or anyone's children should be looking up to. I don't want my children looking up to a stripper, and I'm certainly not going to invite a girl, a woman, or a man, a stripper from Snooki's to come read to my children at my library, especially wearing the same outfit in Snooki's. This indoctrination needs to happen. You cannot be saying we support LGBT kids because then the straight kids feel left out. You can't say we support the black kids because then the white kids get left out. You can't say we support the Hispanic kids because then the Asian kids get left out. You guys should not be supporting anybody specifically because you should be supporting everybody equally. I understand there's fear with masks and with discrimination and what's going to happen, but if you let children live their lives and let the parents do what parents are supposed to do, then the children will succeed. The children will become this beautiful flower that we want them to become. We can't be indoctrinating these kids and saying that twerking is okay. You should be wanting to be on stage getting dollar bills put in your pants by an older man. That's disgusting. We don't want to indoctrinate our kids into that, but I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that happening everywhere I turn. I was at the Wee Spa in Los Angeles protecting a woman's space, a woman who chose to be in a spa where she was completely unclothed and she had to change, and she was exposed to a man with a semi-erect penis, and she had to say something. She went to the front desk and said, there's a man in the women's locker room. And they said, there's nothing we can do. I showed up to the Wee Spa to defend that woman and say, that is not right. It is not right for a business to turn around and throw their hands up and say, oh, under the guise of tolerance, we're going to allow this person to do this. And there were children in that spa. There were 9-year-olds, 11-year-olds, children who could have been your students. This is what I do. I stand up for children because people like you are not standing up for children. People like you are bullying adults because they choose not to be vaccinated. People like you are bullying students who choose not to wear a mask. This needs to stop, and it's stopping now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mickey Martinez.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Mickey Martinez, and I'm a teacher here in Lancaster School District. I just completed my 19th year, and it's ironic that tonight you voted for an approval of declaration on need for fully qualified teachers. Several of us are ready to walk out the door if we continue this testing. Several of us already have, and it's just, enough is enough. So I want to implore you to pass the resolution to end weekly testing of unvaccinated employees, the discriminatory weekly testing. It's divisive, treats us like second-class citizens. It ruined relationships that would have otherwise been fine. Staff members were subjected to bullying and harassment. People in positions to be sued. Several people here I know were sued, all because of that. It compromised staff personal information. I don't normally tell my personal information, but right now it's necessary, but it's not necessary on, for my job. I can teach vaccinated or unvaccinated. My job is to teach students. Has nothing to do with medical. If none of you guys are medical professionals, you don't need to know my information. Medical privacy is a thing of the past. That was apparent the last board meeting when Ms. Groom spoke about Dr. Freeze, why he was not there. When would that have been accepted before, that you just throw out somebody else's personal information? This year, we all became like, under people's microscopes and just, there's nothing about us private left. There are districts locally that have given up testing. They just not. One of them said they just, ran out of tests and they're not doing it anymore. Okay, that's their way of standing up to it. The results of the vaccine are still unknown, and you can still get it and, pass it on, vaccinated or not. When I got it at my site, I counted because, some people talk. I was one of 5 people that had it, and I was the only one unvaccinated. Standing up against weekly testing is just dabbling in getting your feet wet in the bigger fight. The bigger fight will probably be next year when they try to force the vaccine among staff members and among children. We need to protect the children, and we need to protect our staff members. If you care about your district, your teachers, your maintenance, your employee, then that's what we need to do. So we need to pass this resolution. I was going to leave this off, but then our union president spoke again tonight and it quite upset me. She thanked Dr. Freeze, an administrator. He's Dr. Freeze, any other circumstance, he's a great gentleman. I have nothing against him. But this testing, this weekly testing has kind of hit me against him because, he's the one who does that. But the union president, not my union president, because I left the union because of the lack of support. The TAL union president thanked the administrator. There are several people like me right now that want to leave the union. Ms. Whipper, I texted you. Please respond to those people that are trying to leave the union. You cannot put them in it. Now, I'm getting emails, texts daily because people know I did leave. And they're saying, Mickey, how did you leave? Because she's not responding to me, and she told me the date was July 31st. Okay.
Just so you know, yeah.
Because we weren't supported all year. And as far as the LGBTQ, I'm sorry, that was embarrassing. I support all of my students. All of them. White, black, purple, gay, straight. I support all my staff. I don't think them that way. They're my kids. They're my students. They're my staff members. They're my peers. So don't speak for all of us, President. So please pass the resolution to end weekly testing of unvaccinated employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
John Hardesty. John. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is John Hardesty, and thank you for listening, Board of Education. I didn't write anything down. I just figured I'd speak from the heart tonight. There's a lot of fine arguments being presented here, and I just want to give you one more set of facts and data to help support your decision to get rid of this weekly testing. I'm a healthcare worker in a boiler plant, and I was placed on leave of absence last August for. I took the first vaccine of Pfizer, and I started looking up online about this vaccine and found some stuff. It's pretty amazing. The Microsoft patent that Bill Gates has that I don't know. he shouldn't even be involved in vaccines. He's not a doctor or anything. But for some reason, he's involved in it. And, well, you can go do that research yourself. But the point I want to make is regarding I was placed on leave of absence because I wouldn't take the weekly testing. And I haven't backtracked since. And I've done nothing but run into more and more people just like me who are not willing to have a stick shoved up his nose week after week after week. And I've got some reason right here. People with degrees and the ability to do scientific research have been able to come up with things other than cotton on the end of the cotton swab or the test swab. And here is just a few items. They found formaldehyde, aniline, ANILINE, cobalt, artificial fragrances. Oh, this is also found in the masks as well, not just the test swabs. Ethylene oxide is a metal, and graphene oxide. Oh, I'm sorry. Ethylene oxide is a sterilizer, which is not even allowed in hospitals anymore. I worked at Henry Mayo and they had ethylene oxide over there and they got rid of it while I was there because it's a carcinogen that causes cancer. So in this aniline, this is the only one I'm gonna expound upon. Aniline. And aniline used to make a wide variety of products such as polyurethane foam, agricultural chemicals, synthetic dyes, antioxidants, stabilizers for the rubber industry, herbicides, varnishes, and explosives.
And John, just so you know, you have 1 minute.
The chronic exposure to aniline may cause anemia, headaches, tremor, paresthesia, pain, narcosis, coma, and cardiac arrhythmia. So just a few more facts and data to help you along your way in making the decision not to make anybody weekly test for this COVID. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don Hardesty.
Thank you for listening to my concerns. Please discontinue the use of COVID testing against unvaccinated teachers and employees. I would like to make the Lancaster School Board aware of this COVID vaccine. It does not follow the true definition of a vaccine. I believe this coercion to punish unvaccinated teachers to COVID test against a virus that has a 99% recovery rate. The latest data is from June 10th, 2022. It's the published VAERS report. VAERS is the Vaccine Adverse Event Report. 28,859 deaths. Death is a side effect of this so-called vaccine. Why should the school board discontinue the use of COVID testing against unvaccinated teachers? According to Newsweek, June 21st, 2022, the CDC said 5 to 10% of COVID PCR tests are sent to labs for mapping genomic sequencing. However, this announcement has sparked human DNA privacy questions. Could there be class action lawsuits for the labs taking your genes and testing them without your consent or compensation? Within 2 weeks of your PCR test, your DNA information is available in a public database. The Unrest Civil Rights Act prohibits any business in California from engaging in unlawful discrimination against all persons within California's jurisdiction, where the lawful discrimination is based upon the person's sex, race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, age, disability, medical condition, genetic information, marital status, sexual orientation, citizenship, primary language, or immigration status. We now have the DNA to discriminate against a person due to ancestry or genetic information. What is going to protect our teachers against this type of discrimination? Who shall stop this information from being put in a public database? What safeguards does this school district have in place for this? Specimens have labels with identifying information. All data can be directly linked to a subject. Specimens can be stored and data mined indefinitely. Who has access to these specimens? Who has access to the data? What tests are being run? Who decides what tests to run? Can people request disclosure and destruction of their specimen and data? Was informed consent obtained? This is a huge breach of ethics. On September 6, 2011, the California Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act was signed into law, called CalGENA. CalGENA amends anti-discrimination laws already in effect to prohibit genetic discrimination in areas including employment, education, and public accommodations.
1 minute.
CalGENA adds genetic information as a prohibited basis for discrimination. Genetic information means with respect to any individual, information about individual's genetic test of family members of the individual. This includes any request for receipt of genetic services. By law, by requiring the submission of a PCR test for anyone, it could be used for genetic testing is unlawful. The PCR test is an emergency use authorization. It cannot be enforced at all by federal law. That puts this school district in violation of California Penal Code 2052, practicing medicine without a license. As a non-medical doctor, you are enforcing a medical procedure, PCR testing, that can only be prescribed by a medical doctor. And devices and products that are not FDA approved cannot be enforced or mandated. You are also in violation of federal law, Title 21 USC 360BB of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. This school board does not have the authority to mandate or force emergency use authorization products. You are also in violation of the Nuremberg Code of 1947. The right to informed consent is meaningless without the right to refuse any medical intervention, including PCR tests. I'm informing you, you are in direct violation of at least 4 state, federal, and international laws, and a claim could be filed against you. The enforcement of unconstitutional and unlawful actions and harassment needs to stop today. Failure to comply with these demands may result in a claim being filed against each and every individual member of the school board, and also seek damages as well. Please make the lawful decision to end this ridiculous testing. Thank you for considering this. Make the right decision.
Thank you.
Amanda Palmer.
Hello, my name is Amanda Palmer. Thank you for hearing me speak tonight. At one point, I was an aspiring administrator in this district. Because of my vaccination status and the issues that I've had with that, I don't know if that's going to be a possibility in this district anymore. I just want to encourage you to stop the discriminatory weekly testing that against people who don't hold the same religious, health, or personal belief systems as you might. I stayed quiet because I did not want to push my views onto people. But I was forced to comply with COVIDian practices. I was forced to speak out. And now I'm forced to tell you the information
that and reasons why I don't want the vaccine. They don't want the vaccine because on UCLAhealth.org, it says that 2 of the vaccines were tested on aborted fetal cell lines from the 70s and 80s, and that one of that vaccines actually has aborted fetal cell lines in it. I know that might not mean that much to some people, but to me, it means a lot. And that's where my religious views come into play when it comes to this vaccine. Another thing that has happened to me, and this is personal, but I have to share it because I can't get this vaccine. I had a very traumatic experience with a product that was approved by the Food and Drug Administration. I was in a class action lawsuit against this manufacturer of this product, and won. And I got $5 or something like that for this class action lawsuit. But that helped inform my medical decisions after that, because I was already struggling with that medical decision at that point in my life and thinking, oh, I think that I shouldn't pursue this because it's not a natural and I believe in more natural herbal like ways to take care of your body and to take care of your health. And so that's another reason why I'm against the vaccine. There's more reasons why I can go on and on, trust me. But I just don't think it's fair to subject people who don't have the same beliefs as you, whether it's personal, whether it's religious, whether it's medical, whatever it is, to the weekly inconvenience of testing. It's traumatizing to be subjected to something that you don't want to be subjected to, especially when you already had something in your past that has rehashed those, that's something that's current that has rehashed those feelings from the past. Having to prove that you're healthy every single week. So like we're going by this like idea that you're sick until proven healthy every single week. I'm sick. You're sick. I don't even know how many times I've been told that I was sick this year when I wasn't sick. It's dehumanizing. I have a caseload of 150 students that have no regard for personal boundaries. And I never got COVID, even though I'm unvaccinated. Never. 2.5 years later, my husband brought COVID home, breathed in my face. We did everything normal, and I still haven't got COVID. So the pressure of having to do this procedure every single week, like I go to church, but I don't go to church every week, but I have to weekly test every week. Like, I don't know. It's a little intense. Everyone said follow the data at the beginning, even though there was no data. But now that the data is coming out, I really, really hope that you will follow the data. What broke my heart the most this year is when two of my unvaccinated students were removed from their band class. Okay, I brought that up the last time I spoke, and I have to bring that up again because I really hope that you can understand that my students were heartbroken. They really loved their band teacher. Mr. Lewis is amazing. And they loved to play that music. And then they were deprived of that. The admin that was dealing with my discipline in regard to COVIDian practices told me that he was a rule follower and that I just needed to follow the rules. That's rude. I'm a rule follower. But when something that goes against my principles and my values, you're put into a position that and I'm at odds with pleasing the district and pleasing my administrators. And it's going against my conscience to do, you're put into this position where it's stressful. It's really stressful because I value privacy. I value your privacy. I value a lot of things that maybe you don't value, but that's my personal beliefs. And I'm not here to push my personal beliefs on you, but I'm here to defend my personal beliefs and that you don't push your personal beliefs onto me or our students or the parents or other teachers or other administrators or other support staff. I have family that works for the district that are unvaccinated and are very tired of weekly testing, and they're praying right now because they hope that your hearts on this subject will change. When they're not here, they're still praying. I kept hearing, I'm just following orders.
when in regards to my discipline to this, all of this COVID stuff, I kept hearing, oh, I'm just following orders. I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job. I had to teach the Anne Frank unit. I'm 8th grade teacher, English. So I have to teach the Anne Frank unit every year. And then so I have to give my students background information on the Holocaust. And every year, the number one question they ask me is, how did this happen, Mrs. Palmer? When I see and I hear the people telling me I'm just following the rules, I'm just following orders, that's a chilling experience. And I see how it could have happened now. Because when no one else wants to speak up for you because they might not have the same belief system or experiences as you, that's hurtful. Everybody kept saying, don't take this personally. Don't take this personally. It's just what I have to do. I'm just following the rules. I'm just following orders. Like, that's really hurtful. Martin Luther King said, one has not only a legal, but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. In our society, we have to respect people and have compassion for others. We have to try to understand them, even when we don't agree with them. That's how we build relationships. That's how we create a positive climate and culture. Just because we don't agree with somebody doesn't mean that we can disrespect them. At one time, I thought compassion was an inherent trait for a leader, especially in education. If you can't help others, at least don't hurt them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle Hart.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Hart, and I've been a resident of Lancaster for more than 30 years. I've been a medical professional for longer than that. And last year, my life changed when I was told I had to get this experimental vaccine to keep my job. Well, I resisted and I won. And now I'm having to be tested twice a week, which is it's awful. So anyway, I'm here tonight to speak against that. First of all, I think pushing the experimental vaccine, the experimental shot on your staff was something I never thought I would see in the United States of America. I'm glad that has seemed to have come to an end for your district. But anyway, this is still a free country and people still have the ability to make their own medical decisions. This school board is required to work to create a safe environment, free of hostility, free of division, free of discrimination, and free from feeling like a second-class citizen for not submitting to an experimental shot. The COVID testing of unvaccinated staff has created an environment that is not free of these things. Having to test is unnecessary and demoralizing. I know firsthand, trust me, I have to test twice a week. So the vaccinated are more likely to catch and spread the COVID virus. So if anyone should be tested for COVID, it should be the vaccinated. They are living their lives with a false sense of security. I urge you to stop this discriminatory practice of COVID testing of your unvaccinated staff. It is ridiculous and unnecessary. The madness needs to stop.
Thank you.
That concludes the comments from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we are moving into consent agenda items. Superintendent items 16A to 16C. Do we have a motion? Moved by Diane Grooms. A second.
Second.
By Mr. Nguyen. Any discussion? Okay. Call for the vote.
Thank you. On item 16, consent agenda item superintendent, item 16A through 16C. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Grooms, how do you vote? Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes on a vote of 4-0.
Thank you very much. Item 17A to 17H. Business items. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Giles.
Second.
Second by Mr. Nguyen. Any discussion? Okay, with that, we'll call it to a vote.
On item 17, consent agenda items business, 17A through 17H. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Grooms, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes on a vote of 4-0.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have items 18. Consent agenda items, Ed Services, 18A to 18S. Do we have a motion? Moved by Mrs. Grooms, second by Mr. Giles. Any discussion? I had a couple items, questions on that. 18B. Could I just get a little more information on that one?
Sure, we actually have Mr. Hoffman attending online, so he is ready to respond to any questions.
Okay, great. So, yes, this is what was called Sports for Learning. This is one of the value-added pieces we had this year through our expanded learning opportunities grant that, if you recall, a couple months ago, I shared with the board an annual update. This was one of the key items. As you recall, we got just shy of about $11 million to work to support a number of items such as unfinished learning, social emotional learning supports for students. And this one was something that we were going to try out this year. So we let elementary schools opt into this because we thought it would be able to achieve two objectives for us. One, when these folks came in, the Sports for Learning folks, who are now called Alivo with the new company rebranding, they took students out for physical education. So they provided the physical education minutes that are required by the state for our students, giving the teachers at the grade level an opportunity then to come together as a group of teachers to look at the data of the students and talk about the instruction that they're doing to support the needs that we knew that students had. So it gave an actual embedded work time for students, teachers, to come together to talk about their students and really work up their plans to address those gaps that they were seeing that they wanted to address. So we let schools, like I say, opt in. Now, as we are continuing the second year, and this is the final year of the grant, we want to continue that. And we asked, again, the schools to opt in. All of our elementary schools opted in this year because they saw that it was a value-added piece for them. So this will provide all the elementary schools to have that opportunity to have their teachers one time a week come together during their work day to talk about the student needs while their students are getting hands-on physical education with trained students or college students. Typically are the ones that they employ through the Alivo program to meet those minutes for the kids. And we did do survey data of the staff and students, and that was overwhelmingly positive. So we thought it was a good piece to continue to offer this year.
Entire district for one whole year. Is that correct?
Yeah, all the elementary schools. Mm-hmm.
And will that time count towards the 30-minute PE requirement?
It does. It meets there's 200 minutes every 10 days that are required by the state for elementary students to meet. And this takes a large portion of that, if not all of it, during that time, because they are at the site 1 day a week. And they're there for typically 50 to 60 minutes with the students at that grade level, and then they move to the next grade level and so on.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. And then I had one more question. about the SIPS program. Are we just starting that right now? And
Yes. So in the past couple of years, some of the sites have used SIPs as a tier 2 offering to help support small groups of students. We've seen such a value in that, and realizing that our core program is not as strong in the phonics area that it could be. This would take that place of offering our staff in our elementary, our K2, they would use it as their core piece, the SIPS phonics piece. And then the 3rd through 5th, actually K3 rather, and then our upper grade students would have it as a tier 2 still. So we'll have it for all of our elementary schools. We'll train all of our elementary teachers. This board item is for the training portion of the SIPs.
That seems like a really good program. Yeah.
Seeing great results in all the articles and literature we've been reading across the state too that have been using the SIPs.
Great, thank you. Any further questions or discussion?
Which one's the one you just asked?
The SIPs is the F, item F. Mhm.
For the training.
For the training, yeah. Okay, with that, we'll call for the vote.
Thank you. On item 18, consent agenda items, educational services, 18A through 18S. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Grooms, how do you vote? Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 18 passes on a vote of 4-0.
Okay, that brings us to items 19, Human Resources Services, items 19A to 19C. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
By Mrs. Grooms, a second by Mr. Nguyen. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say again, the quarterly report for the COSI, Williams uniform complaints, received 0, which for this year I believe is 0. And that means that the books that we have for the students, the information that is provided to the students is audited by the state, and we received 0 adjustments. So very good. Thank you very much, Dr. Bowers.
And I believe they look at the facilities too. Is that correct?
They do, to look at, make sure there are compliance issues that are met.
So great accomplishment again. Very good. With that, we'll call for the vote.
Thank you. On item 19, consent agenda items, Human Resources Services, 19A through 19C. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Grooms, how do you vote? Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes on a vote of 4-0.
Okay, excellent. Item 20, consent agenda items, innovation and technology, items 20A to 20C. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Keith Giles.
I think there's a typo. It says we have A, B, C, and D, right?
And
It says items A through C, but there's actually items A through D. Is that correct?
A through D.
Thank you for that correction.
Thank you.
Just
We have a motion by Keith Giles and a second by Mr. Nguyen for item
20A through 20D. Lost you. Can't hear anybody.
that have to be mailed across the district. These will all be digital and internal and a much more efficient way of doing business.
So is it a paper savings cost or people savings cost?
Both. It does both. Lots of paper could be saved during this process, and a lot easier and more efficient for everybody.
And I kind of have the same question. Is that expense for the whole year? And is would that be an ongoing thing, or is this like a training kind of thing?
This is an expense that it's by form. So they help us develop the form. The next year the price will go down because we don't have to develop the form with them. The first year's a little bit high because we have to develop the form with the company and make sure it's routed the correct ways. So they give us a lot of training on that. Next year the price will fall because we'll have our forms already done. And we just pay for the platform.
Sounds like a great service.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, one more question on Edgenuity.
Edgenuity is our online program for our students at LADA in grades 6 through 8. They're just changing their name to Imagine Learning.
So this is taught by the teachers. Is it for the middle school level only independent study classes?
Correct. It's only used at LADA.
Okay.
Any further questions? All right. Call for the vote.
On item 20, consent agenda items, innovation and technology services, 20A through 20D. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Grooms, how do you vote? Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes on a vote of 4-0.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have our discussion item, legislative policy. Proposed resolution regarding weekly testing of unvaccinated employees. Do we have any discussion? First off, I'd like to say I would just appreciate the comments tonight about this topic, and thank you for coming out and addressing that. And we had two, I think, resolutions on there. One was the original and one was with some of the changes made. So I was good with both of them. Either one would work with me, and I'd like to recommend that we put it on the next board meeting for a vote. If anyone is good with that.
I'd like to see that as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that direction. So we will move this item from legislative and policy discussion. It will be on the next board agenda for your consideration for a vote.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Okay, next we have comments from the board and superintendent. Mr. Giles.
Well, thank you for accommodating me on vacation. Just wanted to say thanks to all the speakers and for all the compassionate, compelling reasons we do things for kids. And also wanted to congratulate Dr. Bowers on her last board meeting. I wanted to thank her for all her service and all her work for the students of Lancaster, and she will be missed, but I'm sure we'll see her around, and I just wanted to wish her well and thank her for her service, and I wish I could be there to give her a high five, but I'm not, so carry on, and we'll see you later. Thank you.
Mrs. Grooms.
I want to thank everyone for attending tonight. It's very important. I'm muted. How about now? Yes. I want to thank everyone for attending and the comments. This is still a very fluid time in the pandemic, and we have a lot of things to consider. I think it's time for us to look at the resolution to request that the state take away that weekly testing for employees. But I know that the resolution is a request for the state to suspend that resolution. That we have been advised by our legal counsel, by our liability counsel, and by our insurance agencies that we cannot usurp their mandates at this point. And I have to respect. That. I have as many people who have contacted me privately on both sides of the issue, and I'm taking this extremely seriously. Just wanted you to know that. So thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Wynn.
Thank you, Greg. First, I just want to say thank you to the LEF. What a great job you've done for 30 years. And there's nothing that we can say that goes beyond the $20,000 or so that you are giving back to the district for either our libraries at each school or for the other programs that are required. It's a shame you're closing, but you had a very good run. I also look at the resolution as, very toothless, but it says that we don't agree that testing should be mandatory. That's okay. But as a point of clarification, people get flu shots and they still get the flu. People get COVID shots and still get COVID. And people who don't have COVID shots also get COVID. So, we can say that we don't agree with weekly testing, but it's very toothless. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And a great meeting, great things passed tonight. Great to see the LCAP go through. A lot of work put into that. And sad to see the LEF being disbanded. I know it's been a lot of work. I'm sure I'm going to miss those chocolate festivals, though, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, great work for all those years, and I'm glad it's able to continue by putting the money in those programs to continue to give out those grants and so forth. Yeah, great board meeting. I definitely am against mandated testing, so I'm hoping this resolution will make a difference and make an impact. And also, thank you for letting us know about the different bills, Assembly bills and Senate bills. So I'm going to be definitely checking on those and letting the Assembly members and so forth know that we're against those. So, we're here for the main thing, teaching education, reaching our kids, and that's what we need to stick to. So, look forward to doing that this next year. And, Michelle, it's been an amazing journey. Yeah, and you've been fantastic, and thank you so much. We are all going to miss you so much. Know you're welcome anytime you want to stop by. You are welcome to do so, and we look forward to hearing all the amazing things you're going to continue to do. Yeah, with that, we will adjourn. But first, we want to hear from you.
I will be brief because I don't want to get emotional. So I'm just going to say thank you for everything. It has been a wonderful blessing and opportunity to serve the students and the families and the staff of Lancaster School District and the entire Lancaster community. And I'm just truly honored and privileged to have been selected for this opportunity. And I I say thank you to not only the board for your incredible support over all of these years, but to also the community and the staff. And there's much that we have done to be proud of. I know that there's tons of things ahead. I left a long to-do list for you, Dr. Marietti, so not to worry. There's plenty left for you to do as well. But thank you very much. And I look forward to continuing to kind of keep an eye on you to see all the great things that you will continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you again. With that, we will adjourn at 8:32. Do we have a motion? Moved by Mrs. Grooms.
Second.
Second by Keith Giles. And this meeting will be adjourned in memory of Lancaster School District employee Aaron Arunda, who passed away recently. So we're really sorry about that. With that, we'll call for the vote.
Thank you very much. Item 25, adjournment at 8:32. Mr. Giles, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Grooms, how do you vote? Mr. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Teepee, how do you vote?
Aye.
On a vote of 4-0, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Parting